Yes, and here's
So
the problem with being a self-loathing Molinist instead of, like what Braxton called, uh, and also a problem with being petty is I'm just petty enough to say, I can't believe I never thought of that. But I'm glad that you brought this to my attention because I'm on board with it. That seems right.
now let me give one more argument here based upon the fine-tuning argument. So any Christian apologist out there who thinks the fine-tuning argument is good and they advance it, guess what? You're affirming middle knowledge. And also, it's not just an argument for God's existence, it's an argument against the grounding objection, or so it seems to me. So, and here's what's funny.
Hey, you need to explain this one. There's people that are going, huh?
Okay,
They've been using this argument for years now, and they're like, I'm also proving Molinism. All right, let's hear you,
yeah.
Doctor, the newly crowned Dr. Stratton.
Yeah, since I'm newly crowned, I could be making a big mistake here, but I think this is right. And in fact, I think it was back in 2016 when I first kind of started connecting these dots, and I ran it by Dr. Craig, and he agreed with me. This was at the EPS conference in San Antonio at the time, and I ran it by him. In fact, somebody took a picture of him, and he went like, "Whoa!" like that, and we got the picture. It's on Facebook somewhere. But
you impressed William Lane Craig.
That's well, no comment. Yeah. So let me unpack this. So the fine-tuning argument, Dr. Craig advances this. He's probably one of the most well-known Christian philosophers today that advances this argument. But it usually goes like this. Premise one, the fine-tuning of the universe is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Premise two, the fine-tuning is not due to physical necessity or chance. Three, therefore, the fine-tuning of the universe is due to intelligent design. So it's intelligence here. Now, this intelligence based on knowledge, all right? So this has great significance, relevance to Molinism, as I've been saying here, which explains God, the God has certain knowledge of what would occur in possible worlds if he were to fine-tune the initial conditions of the early universe with all these special numbers, right? These all these constants and quantities, right? If you study the fine-tuning argument, you see all these crazy huge numbers that if they were off by, as Dr. Craig says, even a hair's breadth, a life-permitting universe would not exist. So check this out. This also entails that God would possess perfect counterfactual knowledge, not grounded in anything that actually exists, right? This is knowledge that's not grounded in anything that actually exists or has existed or even that will exist. God has this knowledge about all these big numbers, what would happen if he did it.
If the dials were fidgeted in any infinite number or potentially infinite number of different ways, God either knows what will happen in that cosmos or doesn't, just like he knows what will be in this cosmos, or he doesn't.
That's right. And so if this is intelligent design and not accident or luck, right? If God actually dialed in all the dials and knobs just right in order to get a life-permitting universe, God had to know what these initial conditions, all these constants and quantities, he had to know how all of these would be in order to guarantee what would happen. And if it's not the case, then it's not intelligent design.
Because you gotta say he knows the right ones, but if he didn't know which all the wrong ones and what would happen, then how would he ever have known the right one?
That's exactly right. If it's intelligent
clever,
design,
clever, Tim. Very clever.
Right. Thank you.
I like it.
So if God possessed knowledge of what would follow from a certain fine-tuned point of singularity logically prior to his creative decree to actualize the universe, and God could have adjusted these initial conditions otherwise to bring a different kind of universe or none at all into existence, then God possesses knowledge of what he could accomplish. And moreover, given this knowledge, God also knows what would happen if the initial conditions of the Big Bang were not so finely tuned or tuned otherwise. So therefore, if God possesses the power to create worlds other than the world that actually exists or none at all, and if God knows all that would happen in all these other worlds if the initial conditions of these other worlds or universes would have been different and actualized instead, then this seems to strongly suggest that God possesses the middle knowledge advocated by Luis de Molina. Now, McGregor...
Or he has a dial, doesn't know what the heck would happen, and that seems stupid to say.
Well, that's not intelligent design.
All right, so if you believe that God created the heavens and the earth, you're a Molinist or just confused.
Amen to that.
So the first sentence of the Bible, if you believe that this universe, by all accounts, is finely tuned for life, God either knew that and then knew where not to turn the cosmological constants a hair's breadth, because who knows what would happen? Either God knows what would happen or God's not omniscient. So and there's nothing to ground those universes because they're possible worlds, but they're not actual worlds, so they don't exist. He either knows what would have happened, because given a world, you're given a sequence of contingent events that follow. You either know what would happen or you don't.
Ding, ding, ding. You got it.
He can know and if he can know contingents, and he can know free ones. If he can know future contingents, he can know, and he can create libertarian free creatures like the Calvinists will begrudgingly admit and open theists admit, that if he can know counterfactuals of the future, then he can know libertarianly free counterfactuals of the future. Yeah.
Now, this even gets us, but let's just say, okay, so McGregor in his book on Molina, he says middle knowledge is God's knowledge of all things that would happen in every possible set of circumstances.
Right.
Both things that are determined to occur by those circumstances and things that are not determined to occur by those circumstances. So let's just say that God creates a universe. He fine-tunes the initial conditions of the Big Bang to guarantee a life-permitting universe. But let's just assume that determinism is true. He still would have the knowledge of what world would come into existence billions of years later, fine-tuned for life, based, and that knowledge, that fine-tuning knowledge, is still not based upon anything that actually exists. Now, as soon as one grants libertarian freedom, or even indeterminacy, like quantum mechanics,
right?
If God doesn't causally determine the movements of quantum mechanics, is God still sovereign over that? I mean, so, but as soon as you get indeterminacy in the universe too, now it's even increased, this counterfactual knowledge. So anyway, to clarify, since God has natural knowledge, he knows what initial conditions of the Big Bang could produce. Since God has middle knowledge, he knows what specific initial conditions of the Big Bang would produce. And this knowledge is all possessed prior to creation, and thus it's not dependent on actual existing truth makers. So the grounding objection, it seems to me, is refuted by the fine-tuning argument. So this knowledge is simply grounded in a maximally great being who knows all he possesses the power to create and all that would happen if he created or created otherwise.
Yes, and here's the problem with being a self-loathing Molinist instead of, like what Braxton called, and also a problem with being petty is I'm just petty enough to say, I can't believe I never thought of that. But I'm glad that you brought this to my attention, because I'm on board with it. That seems right.
Well, yeah. Thank you. I mean,
it demonstrates Molinism, and that the grounding objection, which I've always intuited was dumb. But this, I like it. I'm on board with that.
Yeah. But I like how you said it. I don't think.
But you have to share credit, so I don't have to be just jealous of you. You have to share credit with, what was it, Erasmus?
That was, I mean, I did share a lot with that first argument against the grounding objection. But the argument from the fine-tuning argument.
That's all you.
That was all me. No,
yeah, see, all right, now I'm going to be petty, and I have to be jealous of you. I think that's great, man. I actually, it never occurred to me to think about it that way, but that seems to make sense. But yeah, man, I like this fine-tuning argument for Molinism, because God either knows what would have gone wrong or he doesn't. And if you say that he doesn't, then how does he know that this, of all the knowledge of what goes wrong, how do you know that he'd get this right?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
why does omniscience give you a right answer, but God can't know what would be the case had the nuclear weak force been a little bit different? God
Right.
can't know that, Cosmos?
Mhm.
That seems weird to me, since because in his natural knowledge, he has to know what those dials do, but he has to have middle knowledge to know what will inevitably result from that. Or he
Yeah.
just doesn't know, or he has no clue.
Yeah, then we get luck, not intelligent design.
Right.
And so say goodbye to the fine tuning argument.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, now the one could say